Yourself can be described as narration, as your unique individual story. Your story emerges from the mosaic of your experiences, interwoven with your past, your present, and the nebulous contours of your future. Your story is the bedrock of your identity. Yet, who writes your story? What if you were confused about who you are? Did not know what your values are, your boundaries? If you were vulnerable to the influence of others? The first function of your narrative self-definition, is to give you the sense of being the author of your story. You get to decide what kind of character you are. At least you might think that. But do other people in your life not also co-author your story? Not only based on your experiences, your beliefs, but also on the feedback of others. You might see yourself as adventurous or cautious, strong or weak, extrovert or introvert. This function of self-definition helps shape your identity, center it around your principles, make it cohesive. Now, what if you had problems finding common ground with others? If you could not empathize with your surroundings, if you felt excluded? Think of the narrative self as a bridge between you and others. It's how you relate to people through shared stories. For instance, when you reminisce with friends about a memorable trip, that shared story strengthens your social connections. It creates trust. It integrates communities. Lastly, what if you did not know where to go? What goals to set? If you were lost? The third function of the narrative self acts as a compass for our future behavior. It influences your decisions by drawing upon past experiences. If you faced a challenge before and overcame it, that story might inspire you to tackle a similar obstacle in the future. If you failed, it might influence your expectations accordingly. So, our narrative self is like a powerful book of our lives, shaping who we are, connecting us to others, and guiding us toward what's next. It is dynamic, fluid, as you navigate your life's various chapters. Time is the dimension within which your story exists. But was your story written by fate? Was it a finished book before you started your life? Can it even finish? Rather than a finished book, you might want to picture your life story as an unfolding autobiography, a never-ending series with new episodes coming out each moment. Now, every story has a start. Who would you be without your past? If you were to lose all of your memories, who would you be? Recalling past events that deeply resonate with your sense of self is like highlighting key chapters in your autobiography. These moments shaped your core history, like when you remember a childhood achievement or a personal challenge, even a trauma that impacted you profoundly. The past is your eternal reference point of your identity. But does it always remain the same? Or do you interpret it differently in each situation when you remember it? Is your past as malleable as your future? Your autobiography isn't necessarily carved in stone, not a fixed entity, more like a flexible process. Just as authors edit and revise their stories, your narrative self can change and adapt. New experiences, insights, and personal growth, but also setbacks, confusion, and tragedies can reshape how you perceive and understand yourself retrospectively. So, your unfolding autobiography isn't a static story, but a dynamic, ever-evolving tale, where the most significant events play a pivotal role in crafting your sense of self. Does that then mean you are more than just this moment in which you recall yourself? Are you the sum total of all your past memories and future expectations throughout your life? The term diachronic is derived from two Greek words, dia meaning through and chronos meaning time. The concept of a diachronic narrative self refers to the continuous thread that runs through your life, connecting your past, present, and future experiences. Imagine your life as a movie, while paying special attention to how things change or develop over time within the plot. Watching yourself, the main character, persisting across different scenes and chapters, across the plot twists and cliffhangers. It's this continuity that makes you feel like the same person over time, despite changes and growth. This continuity doesn't mean you're frozen in time. Instead, it implies that the you who existed in the past and the you who will exist in the future are linked by this consistent thread woven by your narrative self. Moreover, this diachronic narrative self serves as a bridge, smoothly guiding you through life's transitions. It helps navigate changes in roles, whether shifting from child to adult, single to married, providing a sense of coherence and stability amid change. In conclusion, the diachronic narrative self is the cohesive storyline that weaves together your past, present, and future, providing a sense of continuity and helping you navigate life's various transitions. Now you might say, there is no fate that wrote down your story, but you are the author, the protagonist, and the story. But are there still external forces that decide the plot of your story? Who the main characters are? If it will be a comedy or a tragedy? Of course, there's no denying that your personal experiences, independent from the direct or indirect influence of others, guide your life. For instance, when you achieve your self-set milestones in life, but also when you miserably fail at them, the moments when you put your bets on yourself, asserted yourself, insisted against the external odds, these events become the building blocks of your individual core story. They impact your individual self-perception. But are your exclusive personal experiences completely independent from any effect of your social surroundings? With what tools do you evaluate your experiences? The language you use to describe yourself shapes how you interpret, express, and construct meaning. When you encounter a setback or failure, instead of describing it as a personal flaw or a limitation, we can rephrase it as an opportunity for growth and learning. But is your language itself an individual phenomenon, or more of a social phenomenon? Its primary function lies in communication, inherently tied to social contexts. By the way we learned to communicate with others, we also learn to communicate with ourselves. Socialization forms our narrative individual identity. Through our language, we are able to think conceptually, to derive a concept of ourselves. This self-concept is a representation of who we think ourselves to be, a mirror we reflect upon. In the realm of conceptual thought, we continuously engage with these personal narratives. I think, therefore my narrative self is. So on the one hand, we use language to think within concepts that have been socially defined, such as the notion of young or old, good or bad, strong or weak. But can we use these words to construct a story of ourselves completely independent from the story of others? Or is our story just a small part of the larger cultural narratives? From an early age, culture and social context become ingrained in our narrative self. Our cultural background provides a framework for understanding our place in the world. These frameworks not only influence our perceptions of our cultural identity, but also dictate the expectations, behaviors, and roles we assume within our communities. It sets the stage for where we belong in the broader societal landscape, how we navigate relationships, define success, and even determines our moral compass. The cultural repository of myths and stories, its collective narratives, extends beyond individual stories, encompassing a web of shared experiences and beliefs. Religious scriptures like the Torah, the Bible, or the Quran contain narratives that guide moral conduct and define one's collective identity. They encapsulate the collective wisdom and values of a civilization, often containing moral lessons and historical accounts that are passed down through generations. They foster a sense of belonging, strengthen social cohesion, but they can also formulate criteria of what is socially desirable or undesirable. So the cultures and social contexts we're influenced by act as the framework for the construction of our narrative self. How much more then do our actual interactions with others influence our tale? Our interactions with others, our relationships with family, friends, and society are the dynamic script of our story. We're constantly editing and adjusting our story, also based on what others say about us. So in a way, we are both narrator and narrated. There is a continuous feedback loop between our narratives and the narratives of others. Our narrative self is entangled in the narratives of others, whether it's how family members describe our childhood or how friends see our personality traits. These external narratives impact our self-image. The feedback we receive from others, whether in the form of compliments, criticisms, or observations, serves as a crucial building block in shaping our self-perception. Sometimes, these external narratives can conflict with our internal self-perception, leading to introspection or adjustment or straight-out conflict and self-alienation in our personal story. So, given all these factors, how much power do we actually have over our narratives? Most of the time, we are not the ones authoring these stories. They are the ones shaping us. The stories told by others, whether uplifting or critical, hold a considerable influence over the plot lines of our lives. Yet, within this intricate web of external influences, there exists a realm of agency, a space where we can contribute to the co-authoring of our narratives. We possess the power to reinterpret, respond, and to some extent influence the stories that shape us. Now, open the current chapter of your life story. What is its genre? Who are the main actors? Who writes your story?